Hey everyone, I'm Scott Cunningham, aka Scottsy Business, and today we're going to be talking about NFTs. Now, I will put out a disclaimer before this starts that my opinion on NFTs is fairly controversial and not in line with what most people believe or feel or whatever about the space currently, but my opinion, and this isn't financial advice, is that you should not be buying NFTs yet. I think the technology is sound. I think where it's going could have a lot of benefits and uses. And I think there are a lot of great use cases now, but currently we're in a wave of scams, plagiarism, tons and tons of influencers dropping NFT collections to the point where it's not really novel even anymore to have an NFT because everyone just has an NFT collection. Lots and lots of things that kind of add up into why I don't think this is a good idea. But I'll explain what I mean for NFTs that you really should stay away from and ones that probably do have value. And then I will cover what I think are novel use cases for NFTs and where I think the space will go in the future and what I think is going to be good. But currently, I would guesstimate that like 90+% of the NFT space is just fluff and realistically digital waste. Just people creating collections for the sake of creating it. Anyone touching the crypto space at all, just creating their own collection to see if they can get some money out of this as well. I was going to do it just because I was like, I always test everything. I'm always testing things. But I felt like for this one specifically, I wasn't really going to offer much value with an NFT, and it would have just ended up really me being a money grab from my own audience, even if I was really just doing it to test it out. So I'm not going to do that right now. And when ETH 2.0 eventually makes everything significantly cheaper, I think it'll make a lot more sense to be more focused on NFTs then. While there's many other alternatives for minting NFTs, the majority of it is done on Ethereum. That was a lot, but we're going to dive into all the different reasons of why I don't think NFTs are the best bet right now, and I will definitely rationalize my opinion and my take on this, and then we will talk about some of the future uses and things that I do think make a lot of sense. This isn't me writing off NFTs, just the majority of the stuff that you're going to encounter is not going to be the best kind of stuff that you want to get involved in. So before we dive into all that, a quick word from my sponsor. If you're into crypto gambling, check out bc.game. Their VIP program gives you a bunch of ways to earn, from generous giveaways, cashbacks, boosted balance, and their SVIP program. There's a lot to choose from at bc.game. Okay, so let's talk about this. NFTs. The majority of things that are coming out, I think, are not really valuable. It's celebrities cashing in on their own audiences. It's influencers cashing in on their own audiences. You buy it in hopes that it's going to go up in value. Hopefully, you're not just buying it because you want to support the artist or the influencer or whatever. They have tons of money. This stuff probably isn't going up in value. You don't need to be throwing your money into it. Assuming that the majority of people that are going to watch this or be investing in NFTs are newer users. Now, if you're doing it specifically because you have a lot of extra capital and this is just something that you're interested in collecting, I think that's very different from the average person who's being marketed the idea that if they get an NFT, this could be a great investment and it's like a get rich quick thing. If you're getting into crypto or you're new to investing in general, the first thing you should be starting with is, investing in crypto and stocks. You should not be getting into investing and the first thing you go to is collectibles. Now, that could make sense if that's something that you're really knowledgeable in. You already do collect and sell and trade. And it's not just, I'm starting my investment portfolio and I'm going to buy a bunch of Pokemon cards and a bunch of NFTs, and this is like my investment portfolio. I think that is extremely risky and not the best move to be making, especially if you don't know much about collectibles. That should not be the place that you're starting your financial journey. I think collectibles is much more for people who are either very deep into that space and have a lot of knowledge, just because they've been collecting. This has been something that they've been involved with for a long time. or, like you're a connoisseur of some kind, like you have a lot of money, you go and buy art. This is just another form of that. If you weren't buying art to sell or buying collectibles like Pokemon cards to hold and sell, you shouldn't just randomly get into NFTs just because it's hyped up and it's the fad right now. It's the thing that people are into and doing. But like I said, it's being diluted heavily with just digital fluff and like digital waste, more or less, because everyone and their dog is making a collection to cash in on their audience, essentially. It was like originally people made their own token to cash in on their audience, and now they're making NFTs to cash in on their audience. Because the more important thing to consider when you're talking about an NFT is with a token, I could just go and I could just sell it and I can get my money and it's very liquid. But with an NFT, 99% of the time, it's not just like, you can't just market sell it. You have to put it up, set up for bids or a specific price, and someone has to actually want to buy it from you for that exact price and that unique item. Someone has to go out and specifically choose yours based on what, the rarity or, how much it's worth or how much you're selling it for or whatever it happens to be. Someone has to be convinced into doing that. It's not just like, if I have Bitcoin, I can just go sell it, I can get my money. If you have an NFT and you need your money, you might have to sell at a loss because you need the money and people aren't willing to buy it. Or maybe a major loss because no one even really wants your NFT and you just bought some random collection and in hopes that it was going to go up. And I know this is the case because I've even been approached by friends who are newer to the crypto space and they're like, oh, let's buy an NFT collection of random NFTs and hopefully we get a good one. It's literally like buying Pokemon cards, but you're basically spending like 10 to 100 times the amount of money to get these NFTs in hopes that you might get something good. To me, that is more or less gambling. That's not investing. And the majority of NFTs are probably not going to be worth anything. I was in the NFT space. And here's another thing. I'm not some like NFT skeptic who has just, written it off. I've had NFTs for 3 to 4 years before NFTs were cool. I had CryptoKitties, still have some, 0x planets, Ethermons. I've had and owned many, many different NFTs. I own domains, tons of different useful things and less useful things. Now, no one has bought any of my planets or my CryptoKitties, more or less. And the ones that I did sell, I think I did sell maybe 1 or 2 CryptoKitties, but it was like at a loss from when I even originally bought it. Like I bought it for $7 and I sold it 2 years later for $5 because no one was willing to buy it. I still have some that are listed for $5 because no one wants to buy them for even $5. So you do have to consider a lot of these NFT projects where you breed or, you do something with the NFT to make a better NFT. A lot of that is gambling because it's literally just based on the rarities. If you get a non-rare, very common NFT, it's not really going to be worth anything. No one's going to go out of their way to buy it from you. It's unlikely that you'll even get to sell it. So that's just lost money, essentially. But maybe if you get a rare one, either you pay a bunch of money for a rare one or you manage to breed one, then maybe you can get some money. But if you're paying a lot for a rare NFT, it doesn't necessarily even suggest that it's going to go up a lot. Or again, someone has to actually buy it from you for a higher price. So you can't just go into the NFT world and being like, oh, well, if I just buy a bunch of common CryptoKitties and I hold them, then they're all going to go up in value and then I can sell them. Again, probably you're not even going to get anything for those. And people might not even want to buy them, which again is the case for me. Had them on sale for years. So I think it's very, very interesting with people getting into the space and they're new and they don't understand the different dynamics because there's NFTs that are, you can do stuff with them, you can breed, you can create new ones. That's all based on rarity. But then there's NFT exclusive drops from like influencers that you're hoping based on the exclusivity and the scarcity of those drops that if you buy them originally, they will go up in value. Most of the time, I would say that doesn't really happen. And people lose money by buying NFTs from influencers. Plus, we've covered many, many scams or just like terrible projects or influencers who are paid gross amounts of money to promote NFTs whether they're involved in the NFT creation or the promotion or whatever it happens to be, and they don't disclose. We've seen tons and tons of examples of this, like we saw with Logan Paul using Adobe stock photography for his crypto zoo or whatever it was called. Jake Paul doing a promotion and not disclosing. The Weeknd, Post Malone doing a thing and not disclosing. Tons of NFT scams, tons of really crappy projects being promoted by influencers. There's a lot of nonsense out there that you have to sift through to actually get to something good. Now, out of all of this like collectible stuff, I will say there's sometimes things that could make sense. Like if you buy an NBA Top Shot from the collections that they release, those are authoritative enough of a distributor for you to potentially make money on someone who wants to buy it off of you in the future. I think that somewhat makes sense. But again, there's still really no guarantees. If the NFT space starts to really, like if the bubble starts to pop, so to speak, because of all this nonsense that I've been pointing out, those could suffer too, and you might still lose money. Again, this is really for people who are really into collectibles, not for speculation, for people who are new to collectibles or, don't even have much other assets that you should not be focused on building collectibles in your portfolio. And again, it's very important to understand the liquidity, because if there's a huge rise in crypto and you want to get your money out, it's going to be very challenging to do that very easily and quickly with NFTs, especially if it's a big portion of your portfolio, because now you got to go through and you got to decide, what am I going to sell each of these for? You got to manage them, monitor the sales. If no one's buying them, you got to lower the price. You got to do a lot to actually complete that whole process. But I do think that highly exclusive, scarce NFT collections could be valuable from authoritative distributors like the NBA, for example. But I mean, if they start coming out with like an NFT collection every month, then they might all just be worth much, much less because it's not so exclusive. So things can change very quickly. I still don't think any of these are, solid risk-free investments. I think NFT investing at all is more risky than just normal crypto investing, which is already extremely risky. You got to understand the risks that you're taking on to get into these types of assets. And again, I would say that this isn't really investing. This is more so speculation, gambling. And, it could be investing for the right person who is knowledgeable in collectibles, or they have the extra money at the very least to be putting that aside because they've already built up such a good portfolio that they're like, all right, maybe we can do some other stuff to diversify a little bit. But, if you have $1,000 in stocks and $2,000 in crypto, you're not diversifying by getting NFTs as well in your portfolio. That's just silly, in my opinion. And people who are going to tell you otherwise are likely people who already own NFTs or they're distributors or artists. Because realistically, the majority of people who are actually making the money are the ones who are distributing them, like the NBA, the artists who might also be the distributor, typically. And that's about it. I mean, there's some people who might be getting really, really good NFTs and then selling those for more, or people who have originally bought an extremely rare crypto kitty and now they can just breed new rare crypto kitties. Like, there's certain things where it's like, yes, that makes sense, but that is a very, very small percentage of people. The majority of people who are actually making money, from day to day are the distributors and the artists, more or less. A lot of people just have NFTs for fun, which is, again, fine. But if you're going in with the explicit idea in mind that you're investing in NFTs as an investment and to make money, I would highly recommend against that. Again, none of this is financial advice, but you need to consider yourself like an NFT art connoisseur, the same way that you wouldn't go around investing in paintings unless you had a ton of money and you were investing as like an art connoisseur. It's a very particular skill set to actually be able to make money with it. And, it's not someone who's just like, pretty much broke or has a very small amount of funds and wealth. That's not the person who should be getting into collectibles. Because again, if you need the money and you need to liquidate, you're going to run into problems. So I think it's important to touch on the idea that the majority of people who are in the NFT space are basically forced to become NFT marketers, because otherwise there's no way that your NFTs are going to go up in value. You have to get other people into NFTs. Otherwise, no one is going to buy your NFT because you need a buyer, as I've been trying to explain. Most of these people, I would argue, are just forced into becoming marketers of NFTs because they want theirs to go up in value, or mainly you want yours to go up in value, or at least be able to sell it if you need to. So, someone who buys an NBA Top Shot is kind of made an enthusiast of NBA Top Shots, because why wouldn't you be? You need to promote your thing, try to get it to go up in value so that you could sell it for more, and, encourage people to want to buy NBA Top Shots and all these kinds of things. In one way, I look at that and I say, that's actually pretty great. You turn your buyers and investors into marketers. Again, really mainly benefiting the distributors and the artists. That's the thing here. Because you have to put in all the legwork to make this thing more valuable, and then you have to convince someone to buy it, and you have to, get a good platform to sell it on, and it could also depend on the chain you're using. You might spend more fees. There's all these different caveats that are going to continually take away money from your potential profits, and I think it's also important to understand that, people are generally out for their own well-being, because they have to promote their NFTs to be able to actually get that value out of them if they did invest. And even if they realize this wasn't the greatest idea, they still need to be hey guys, this is great, please buy this thing. Because it's hard to sell something if you're no, NFTs suck, I'm selling all my NFTs because they suck, buy my sucky NFTs. That's not going to be the case, and that wouldn't really work very well. Plus, now we're seeing tons of plagiarized NFTs. There's an entire website called the NFT Bay, where essentially they go and they just copy and save every NFT in existence. I'll share my screen here. So you can find, all the different types of NFTs. You could search specifically through different projects. You can see the top 100, all these different things. And, it just really goes to show this is what's happening. Tons of people are plagiarizing NFTs, stealing them, reselling them. There's a new thing called sleep minting, where people can make it look like an NFT was created by the original author. I will cover that. I need to do a lot more research and to truly understand how it all works, but do understand that there are, crazy things happening out here that are exploiting NFTs and, people's willingness to try to catch a get rich quick NFT that they think is going to go to the moon or whatever. This is all the meme coin investing, but taken to a much more riskier level. Because again, it's hard to liquidate and all the other things that I've mentioned. So, there's scams, there's plagiarized NFTs, there's lots and lots and lots of craziness going on in the marketplace right now that makes this just extremely risky to get into. Now, with all of that being said, I still like the idea of NFTs. I think it's a novel technology, and I think there's a lot of really great use cases for NFTs. So now we'll talk about the positive side of things. But a lot of what I see as a positive for NFTs is what we've really yet to see, or at least yet to see on a very wide mainstream level. Because right now, the mainstream of NFTs is a lot of digital fluff and just art and stuff like that. And again, that's not necessarily a problem, but it's not worth getting into, in my opinion, as is. So, current use cases for NFTs. Collectibles. That makes sense, but it's a lot of digital fluff. That's you got to be aware of. Tokenizing physical assets. I think this is genius. This makes a lot of sense. This is great. Taking a painting and tokenizing it, basically creating the same thing and having the ownership and everything on the blockchain. Also, you could tokenize it more so than NFT it. I guess a tokenized version of a physical asset could be NFTs representing a portion of that. Or, I mean, you could just do it with an actual token. It doesn't necessarily need to be an NFT. But I guess in terms of just unique assets, it's kind of like how Realty operates. They create tokens to represent their properties, and then they sell those tokens, which are semi-unique. But it's like, a property divided into 10,000 tokens, and then you can hold the token, and it acts like an NFT. You could do the same thing with a painting, right? Like you could turn a painting into 10,000 tokens of that painting and then hold those as a representation as well. It would work fairly similarly. You can do a lot of things with tokenization without having to use NFTs. And yeah, I think Realty is probably the best possible example of that. Tokenizing digital rights and monetization. We've seen people do this already. A bunch of popular artists have done this as kind of more of like, I would say, a marketing thing, because most artists only do like one song and then they're like, all right, I've done my NFT thing. That's done now. Like I think Eminem did it. I know Taylor Bennett did. I know there's people who are doing books and tons of different stuff in the form of NFTs. But realistically, a lot of it is just kind of banking on the marketing. Like no one's like, oh, this is the best idea ever to have my NFT as a book. And then you own the book, or you own the rights to the book, or you can do whatever. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of interesting, but you could also just own the book and like buy the book. Like the book being an NFT doesn't really like do anything different. And it's not like the entirety of the book and all of its contents exist on the blockchain. So it's not like you're doing something super novel, at least as far as I know. I mean, you could literally have each page of the book as an NFT, or there's a lot of different things you could do. But I just don't see that as being the most practical. I think a lot of people are just cashing in on the hype of NFTs. NFT staking is pretty novel. It's like staking NFTs or staking a crypto to earn new NFTs from drops. Again, though, I would say that that's not really that useful, because you're still going to get common NFTs and things that people don't want. You still have to convince someone to buy them, et cetera, and they know more are going to be coming, so it's not extremely scarce or exclusive. Each to their own, right? Like if you really are into NFTs and you do want to get new NFTs, NFT staking might sound really awesome to you. I think that's just kind of mixed in with the other kind of fluff stuff personally. Domains. I think this makes a lot of sense. Unstoppable domains and ENS. They've had .eth domains for ENS and .crypto, and I think a couple others like .zil for crypto unstoppable domains. I think that's really cool, and you can do different things with it that is very useful. Like people can send to my scottensybusiness.eth domain instead of typing out my Ethereum address. Lots of useful use cases for that. And anyone who bought an ENS domain a while back recently got a massive airdrop worth tens of thousands of dollars from ENS. So that was fantastic. Eventually, because I don't think where we are now, video game assets. Now, there's tons of blockchain video games that seemingly are building their games in reverse. They say, we need to have NFTs in this game. Let's build a game around this to ensure that we can make money off of the NFTs. These games suck. This is the majority of crypto games, sadly. There's some games that are novel and actually make sense and work well. Splinterlands, for example, that's a good use case because it's like, Magic the Gathering or like Hearthstone, but then all of your cards are they have a value when they're on the blockchain and they're NFTs and they're tradable. That is pretty cool. That's useful. That makes sense. But when all these games are being built backwards, like let's put NFTs in somehow and just build some simple game around it and just, take money from people. That's the majority of games and they all suck. From a video game perspective, they're terrible. Like I play video games. I like to think that I have a pretty good opinion on what is a good video game and what is a bad video game based on what people are actually playing, what people actually like, and the actual effort and value and things put into a video game, because we know what happens when people don't really live up to expectations, like Cyberpunk and things of that nature, No Man's Sky, etc. And when people are building these video games backwards, it's terrible. Like they suck. If people start building video games with NFTs as an afterthought, Like you build an amazing game and there's NFTs in it. That is how video games and NFTs will actually, flourish. Or adding NFTs into games that are already in existence. Like you take games where there's a lot of skins, a lot of stuff that people buy, but they can't really sell. It doesn't make a lot of sense right now for video game publishers to do this because they make a lot of their money this way, like Fortnite, CSGO, etc. But if they were able to make money off of the fees from secondary markets, they could figure out a way to make this profitable for them as well and help users be able to earn money for their efforts, as well as, just do a lot of different things. I think there might be some legality and issues around these kinds of video games and having children playing and earning and selling and making money. Maybe that's where things get a little sketchy. But I think that is where the real novel use case for video games is going to be. We're not going anywhere close to the metaverse for a long, long time. And if anything, the majority of what we have is the centriverse and not at all a decentraverse. So I think that's very, very important to understand. I will talk about the metaverse in the future, but currently where it is headed and what we have currently set up is mainly the centralized metaverse. Just checking time here. We've also got, things like social media, marketing, people make NFTs for tickets and things for shows. I think that kind of makes sense. But again, you don't really need to do that. I mean, in a way, it's like a badge, but actually using it as like the ticket isn't really that amazing or novel or useful, aside from being like, I went to this thing. That's cool. And I have proof that I went to the thing. That's kind of cool. But using it and being like, oh, you have to now, every time you get a ticket to a show or do something, it has to be an NFT. It's not really useful or practical. It's kind of just oh, look, we're using NFTs. And I don't think that will be very popular for very long. And then tokenized ownership proofs. It could be, simple things. It could be products, charities. You could have donation receipts. You could do receipts. Many, many different things can be done currently within the confines of what is possible. And I think a lot of this stuff is really, really cool, novel. But realistically, the majority of what's actually out there and in execution and practicality and in reality, what's actually being done in the space, most of it is fluff, sadly. I think in 5 years from now, we might be in a much, much better place. But right now is the whole influencer celebrity craze on NFTs. And it's kind of diluting the space. Future uses of NFTs. As I mentioned, gaming could be huge in the future if they do it right. Healthcare records, other things that need to be, validated, easily accessible and updated. And, it's important to have it all accurate and keep the integrity of said thing. I think healthcare records are a great example. There could be many different types of records and types of information and things that could be stored. I think that would be very, very useful. And some people might be worried about privacy and different things. I think that makes a lot of sense to be concerned about the privacy as well. But to be able to have something that you could instantly pull up and it would have all of your information and it would be immutable. And that would be really, really useful for things like healthcare. Or identity management, for example. Instead of having to, every time you need a KYC on an exchange, you have an NFT of your KYC that has been verified, and then you can just use that NFT and just essentially, give permission or prove by connecting your wallet that is you, and then you don't have to do all the extra work and go through the massive manual approval processes or, 1-day review processes. You could do a lot more if identity management was done with NFTs. Mind you, I am completely against KYC and I do not like the idea of KYCing for any exchanges. And I would say you just use swap exchanges and exchanges that do not have KYC. The real reason for KYC, or the only reason that makes sense to me, is to get my money in and out of crypto through that onboarding process. But beyond that, you really shouldn't be using a KYC exchange. There's no benefits to doing so. I would not be doing that at all. certifications, licenses, deeds, again, more records and things of that nature that could be, you prove ownership of things. Or, you have a license of some kind and that's stored on the blockchain or whatever it happens to be. Because, you can lose it. Tons and tons of things can happen. But if you have all this stuff as an NFT, then that would be a much easier way to manage your digital ownership of various things. And then lastly, you could do like subscriptions or like loyalty based things through NFTs. You could do this many different ways, but imagine, say, instead of paying to a Patreon, you would buy an NFT, and that NFT would be your subscription to the Patreon. And if you still have got your NFT, whether or not you pay for it or you have a lifetime subscription or whatever, and then you can get different things based on that. A business could offer an NFT to, extremely loyal customers, and it would act as like a loyalty card, and you could show your NFT and then get 10% off of your order or something like that. There's lots and lots of interesting ways that you could use NFTs. And these are just some examples that I wanted to go through and cover because I do think NFTs have a bright future. I think the technology is really interesting. I think that there's a lot of potential, but currently I think there's more downside than upside for what I see in the market. And again, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that are going to see this and be kind of upset with me because either they have NFTs, they make NFTs, they distribute, maybe a large portion of the stuff they cover content-wise as NFTs. I understand all that. I am generally positive on NFTs and bullish into the future and what we can do. But again, it's not the good actors who are doing this stuff. It's the bad actors, which is sadly the majority, that are making me feel this way about this space. So this is kind of like my overview and warning about NFTs and investing in them as they are today. I think especially if you're new to investing in crypto or in general, you should be sticking to stocks and crypto, like, top level crypto, like blue chip crypto, like top 10, top 20 even. Again, none of this is financial advice, but there's a lot of stuff out there that is going to lead you the wrong way. And as you know, the majority of what I do in my videos is to just warn you guys and keep you as level-headed as possible and keeping you rational and investing with logic, not based on hype or emotion or anything of that nature. So thank you so much for watching to the very end. Let me know, what do you think about NFTs? How long have you been investing in NFTs? Again, I do have some authority to, have this opinion given I've been in NFTs for like 4 to 5 years now. So I've definitely been in it for quite some time. It's not just like I missed it and, I'm sour grapes because I missed the craze, or I bought some NFT for a lot of money and then, it's lost money on it or something like that. Nothing like that. This is just what I see in the space. I've been testing out NFTs for a very long time. I still have held NFTs for a very long time. And I still see a bright future for them. So let me know what you guys think about NFTs. Thank you so much for watching to the very end. Since you did, please do comment #1ham in the comments below. And that way I know you watched the whole thing. And I'm more likely to respond to your comments and be much more appreciative that you were able to consume all of this content that I put so much work into. And it's always much, much appreciated. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I'm Scott Cunningham, aka Scottsy Business, signing off. Cheers.